Hi, it's David here, Future Trader. I want to go ahead and give you your update on your stocks, your metals, your oil, and your forex. All right. I actually first started this here in this video here on uh, all of the information I'm about to cover. That was in the NQ because the NQ wasn't setting up any information at the time. I went on and pulled out the TradingView platform and just kind of combed through some forex stocks and metals and oil, giving you that same price action method. So we're going to look at eight of them, all eight of them, and see what they did since this video right here. And I'll touch on where it was at from here. But we're going to look at what they did from this video here. Now, you can find all of this information if you're not viewing it from the channel right here at the universal price action method. If you win, it's this. All right. So you can come over here, hit that playlist, and you can find this video as well as these two here. If you want to start from the beginning, just go about halfway in this video and you'll see me pull out this chart and just kind of go to work on it. So we're going to take a look at that information. But while I'm doing so, I'm going to leave this Bitcoin in frame here for you so you can kind of see something moving while I'm doing it. All right. So don't want to have you just watching a bunch of still information here. I want to kind of give you something that's moving. Now I'll make the candles just a tad bit bigger so you can kind of get a look at that. Matter of fact, let me touch on what the method is before I go into the eight different things that we covered. So let me show you what it is in case you don't know and you're new to the channel here. This is the universal price action method that I released to the public, the very first pattern that I released to you. And it's very simple. You get the mid of the candle here, and you do not have to wait till the candle close. It probably will pop up right here. Uh, but again, this low is not touching the mid of this candle. And if you're not understanding it from this direction, this mid not touching that low. All right. So then the NC will show up above here. Okay. And then, of course, you get the hard stop here. All right. Now that's for the down. All right. Now, if you want to go with the up, let's do the up real quick. And then we're going to comb through those eight different instruments. All right. So here's the up. You get a candle. Okay. And as long as that mid, okay, so the mid is here. As long as this mid do not touch that high, and as long as this high is not touching that mid, depends on which way you can understand it. I'll do in both directions. This high not touching that mid, this mid not touching that high, there will be an NC here, okay, and then a hard stop here. All right, so then we'll put the text there so you can better understand the indicator there. So you do not have to have an indicator for this. I coded the indicator, but you do not have to have it. All right, it's really, really simple. So you get your NC on the candle in which that the mid wasn't referenced. All right, now any bar that's colored, and this is something I'll tell you, any bar that's colored with the level is the hard stop. The NC is going to come up under the bar, of course, with the no close. And sometimes it can be both sometimes. But the NC is the no close and the hard stop is the level. Now, I'm gonna have this off in the corner while we cover these eight markets so you can kind of just get your eye on it and get a feel for how it works. All right. So now let me lock this, put it on top. Okay. So in the very first video that I did with Bitcoin, matter of fact, this is Bitcoin. It's a 1 minute time frame too. So there's the 1 minute. Here's the clock. All right, you can kind of just watch this as it plays out. The Bitcoin here is hourly. The very first time I did a video, price was on this bar right here, kind of trading up and down. And I told you that this was a considerable amount of risk, but there you have it. The NC is here. I typed it on the chart because I don't have the indicator for this. All right. I don't use this platform. This is a trading view platform. Let me kind of just move this up a little bit. It's a trading view platform. I do not use it. I'm a ninja trader user and I trade futures. All right. So hard stop here. They hadn't made the trend distance yet. Okay. They hadn't made it yet on this bar. They ended up making it, and price was here when I came back, and of course, they wind up driving down. This was one that I wasn't all that satisfied with its performance, but of course, you can break this, just don't break this. All right, so you don't supposed to do the two-leg removal if you're going to turn around, but they managed, of course, to drive down here. Made a trend down. They made a trend down. They just again, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. So they just didn't give you a lot for the trend down. All right. And then they came back around because they didn't break, of course, the bottom there. They didn't break the bottom. They didn't even break this. So then they came back and gave you the trend distance. All right. So let's take a look at the USD JPY. All right. So in the first video that I shot on the NQ, price was here. But again, I, of course, told you there was a trend in the backdrop. They made the trend distance. There was a no close here. Hard stop was here. Then I came back and the price was on this bar here. I think it was this, yeah, on this bar here, and of course they never made it. And as you can see, there's the cascade down. All right, and again, you can watch the videos to get yourself caught all the way back up, but I'm gonna try to do my best to just kind of bring you up to speed right here and right now. All right, so here's a trend here. There's a trend distance. Price was here in the very first video. Price was here. And I told you there's the no close level here. Here's the hard stop. And they hadn't, of course, broke that high yet. They hadn't done that because price was here. And then I came back the next day. It was the very next day. And I told you, yeah, they were approaching the high. They were approaching. I even told you, I believe they'll get past that. And of course, price was here and they kind of leaned back. They never kicked that stop. Let me go ahead and give you that. All right. So the crosshairs is here. You can see they never hit that stop. And they gave you the trend distance actually a couple times. All right. So you had it in here, then you had it in here. All right. So here's the USD. That was the pound. That was the pound USD. All right. You can find all that information right up here with the hourly. You can find all that information there. And now here's the Euro USD. Now, this was the very interesting one that I showed you because I told you that the bar here wasn't creating the trend. We didn't have a trend up yet. We didn't have it. This bar was supposed to have set that trend, but I did tell you if it was going to do that, here's the pattern. Okay, so we had this bar's high, this green bar wasn't touching this bar's mid. That became the no close bar, this green one here, and of course the hard stop here. But this bar would have needed to set the trend. So when I came back the next day, they had drove down, kissed the back of it, gave you a pop up, but there was no uptrend. And so price was here when I did the next video. And of course, I told you that trend never was set. And so they gave you the trend distance to the downside. Now let's take a look at silver. All right, so here's the trend distance, okay? And so here's, of course, that risk. And I did tell you this is a considerable amount of risk, but that was the price action setup because this red bar isn't touching this mid. And of course, the hard stop is here. And price was here on this red bar. Price was on this red bar when I shot the first video here. And then I came back, price was trading here on this red bar here, and they were approaching that high. Well, needless to say, they drove down, tried to, of course, scare everybody out of it, but then eventually made the trend distance and then rolled over, right? So you're going to see as a behavior to this too. I'm just not going to all the details of it. I'm only giving you framework, all right? So framework is enough for YouTube. It's enough. So here we go. Here's the trend distance. They supposed to make it. Price was here on this red bar here. All right. And there's the no close bar. There's the hard stop because this bar's high isn't touching that bar's mid. And that becomes the no close. Here's the hard stop. Drove down. Okay. They drove down. And then they were moving themselves back up. When I came back, I gave you the alert price was here on this bar. And I told you I doubt that they return from here because they hadn't made the trend distance. And they would cover clear what was off to the left. And so then they made the trend distance and then they flipped. Now, again, you can pass this, but just don't pass this. And they never made it. All right. So they never made it past that pivot. And then they came back and gave you some more of the trend distance. All right. So there you go. Now let's look at that oil. Again, it's 8 different markets. I'm about to show you this simple information that I released to the public. Very first pattern that I released to you. And again, it's very simple, very, very simple. Price was here on this green bar right here. This green bar right here was the very first price action alert that I gave you in the NQ video. All right. So, and I told you they had it from above and of course from below. So from below, the high here is not touching that mid hard stop here, but I told you they had it from above and I left it at that in that video. I said, well, I know they're coming up from here, but they just put this in place. And so I gave you your hard stop there and your NC when price was here. And so they managed to turn around, kick that stop. They managed to kick that stop, but they never set that trend. They never set the trend. I never drew you a trend in this direction because it wasn't no trend. But I did tell you they just did this, and they're coming back up there. And this is important. It is. And so they turned back around. And so when I came back, now this is what I did tell you when I came back the next day. Price was here, okay, on this bar here, and I told you that they were building themselves for the move up. And you can tell by it because this bar's high is not touching this bar's mid. This bar's high is not touching this bar's mid. This bar's high is not touching this bar's mid. And I was referencing this area, all right, when I was telling you that. I was telling you they're building themselves to go in this direction. Again, you can get caught up on what I said and where everything was at. All you had to do is look in the playlist. I promise you, you'll see exactly what I said. It's very, very simple. They drove back, and then, of course, there's your trend distance. They made it. Okay. They made it. And then they flipped back. All right. And again, right back into this information over here. All right. Right back into it. Now, they managed to get past, again, a couple of them, they can do that. But this is where, this is kind of where it started for real. So The high of this bar isn't touching that mid, and they never passed that, and then they gave you the trend distance again. All right, so there you have it. Now let's go up to that stock. All right, so on the hourly, when we first pulled it up, I just didn't put it there, but it was right here, and you can go back in the NQ. It was of course right here. They had the gap, and they had that gap up, and so I told you that this gap was a big green candle, and that the high of this red bar isn't touching the mid of that gap, so they shouldn't come below this green bar. All right, now you can look up here in the top left-hand corner if you're not familiar with trading at all and don't have no idea what platforms are, capable of here. The low is the L. All right, this is the L. All right, this is what we're concerned about right now. But this is the open. The O is for the open. The H is for the high. The low is for the L, and the C is for the close. So the high and the low is essentially the top and bottom of the candles, and we can get into all that another time. But you're gonna want to pay attention to the low. So when I put the crosshairs on this bar here, what is the low? 189.17. So the low of this little green bar, remember the hard stop supposed to be on this green bar. Okay. Hard stop. All right. Hard stop, no close. All right. All of that is going to be on this green bar because this bar is low. It's beneath that red bar, but it's still the setup. All right. Now let's check the low here. So we're going to go 189.20. Yes, it was a few, I guess a few ticks above this low. So 189.17. Again, you can check that L of an upper left hand corner here. There's the low, okay, 189.17. They, of course, ran down there, 189.20. Now, the reason for all the text here is because on this one, I actually dove into the 1 minute. But before I do that, I'll do this. Just kind of give you a little bit more information. You have a downtrend here, I'm noticing. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's six 6 bars lower than the first, 7 in total. All right, so there's a downtrend here, so they can possibly do a downtrend on you when they come up on Monday. I'll just give you that information there to kind of help you out. So I wouldn't necessarily be here per se for a higher move. They are setting that pattern up right now. So the low here is not touching this mid, no close back above here, hard stop here. They're kind of it's actually all three of these. They're setting it up again. So this can potentially go ahead and drop down and give you that distance of a trend. So from high here to the low here, from high here to the low here, will probably land you somewhere down into here. So they may gap, down into this area here. Just want to give you that little bit of information there. Now let's go to the 1 minute. All markets that I do not trade, I don't trade any of these markets, and there's 8 of them. I'm gonna cover all of them using that one price action method that I showed you, and it's very simple. And again, we'll look at this Bitcoin in just a second, just for the sake of gaining a little bit understanding of how it works if you're new to trading. So we had that trend on that day, and of course, price was right here. So price was right here on this red bar. And of course, they had the scenario from this side with the high of this bar not touching that mid. So I put that hard stop there for you. But I told you that they were doing it from this side because you had this bar low not touching that mid. And so the hard stop there, they pulled up to it and they was pushing down. You had the trend here. They never broke the trend as they were drifting down, never broke it, right? So they have to go to trend distance, and there's the trend distance. And so the next video I came back, they were right here, right at that trend distance. I'm pretty certain they probably gapped down first, but they got close enough to the trend distance, and they managed to actually come back up and do the trend distance there. So there's the information there. And so on Monday, you may see this turn into that trend, and that may land them somewhere down here because they're setting it back up. Now, in the likelihood that I'm wrong, in the likelihood that I'm wrong, they may not get a they may get a no close under here, which I doubt it, but they may get a no close under here and because this bar's high is not touching this bar mid. The hard stop would have to be here. And then, of course, they need to turn back around. But again, they're stacking it against you, and they're blowing through that setup on this side. That's not good. So just want to go ahead and tell you that. Now, on here, if you've been watching this, again, if you took a peek at it as it was developing, is not, again, a price action method that you have to wait for the bar to close. If you see, now let's say in this last scenario here, if you see that it went out as high, and sometimes it does that, it just becomes the no close bar and the hard stop. It becomes both. But if you see that this bar, now let's say you got a bar, and you see that this bar is moving away from this candle slow, and the mid would fall right about there. The minute you see that that mid is kind of moving away from that low, it may just pay attention to your bar timer. That's all. It's really simple. It's not that you have to cover 2 bars. You don't have to. you can go ahead and jump the entry and have a hard stop right there. So if it's moving away from the bar's low, if it's moving away from the low of it, go ahead and jump it. You just want to make sure that that mid clears it. That's all. You want to make sure that that mid clear that low, and so you can go ahead and get in the trade possibly sooner. So if you've been watching this, you may have seen it moving. You can pause the video, go back and rewind it, and you'll probably see that, of course, that there may be a scenario there that you possibly could have benefited from. Now, I'll scroll through the chart just a bit to kind of give you an idea of what the colored bars and of course the NCs would have gave you, and potentially you would need to go with the trend. That's how you get the most out of the trade. Yes, you can take this setup by itself, but it's best to try to go ahead and go with the direction of the trend to get the most out of the trade. All right, so it's really really simple here. And you wherever you see the colored bars, it's a hard stop placement with the level. Wherever you see the NC, it's a no close. So if you're new to trading and you don't understand, of course, the setup, this particular indicator I code is really simple. It just helps you see the chart in a very plain manner. All right. So you just kind of want to make sure there's a trend there. And then, of course, if you start to see that separation between that mid, which is that marker on the mid of the candles here, that little marker on the middle of the candle, the blue marker, if you see that separation there, then it's possibly a setup where you can get into it pre-adventure that they won't come back and run the stop. Like here, for instance, let me blow this up just a bit. For instance, you see this mid, okay, getting above the high here. Now, of course, you got your hard stop up here, no close and all of that. But that mid is getting above that high. A level should pop up here and this bar turn green. Now, will it work and just hold it? I don't know. It maybe, but I don't know. Let's see what we got on the trend side of you. Again, you want to put all that information together. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5. So it's 5 here. It's not a trend yet. Okay. So it's not a trend yet. So they could go right back up. All right. So there's the green bar. Okay. There's the green bar. Here's the hard stop. No close back below here. All right. And now remember, we don't have our trend down. So they could turn around and go back up. They could. And so I just wanted you to be able to see again all of this information, the 8 different markets. I'm sorry, the 8 different markets that I covered. And again, if you're not, let me take this off on top here so I can show you that. So if you're not viewing this on the channel, you can come here, click the universal price action method. You can click this playlist and you can find the video from today, as well as, of course, when I first initially started covering. I'm sorry, get tongue tied there. Initially started covering the metals, the oil, the forex, and the stocks. You can come here and you can go ahead and take a look at that about halfway in. You can come back here. You'll catch, what I said from here, and then of course what I just went over. All of that can be found in that universal price action method. If you win, it's this. All right, it's this. I promise you that. So hopefully you found it beneficial. I appreciate the subscribers. Thank you so much. But I would like for you guys to hit the like button, please. Please support what we're doing here. I'm trying to get you some information that can make your trading work in the way that you want it to work. I appreciate you joining. And if you're not a subscriber, go ahead and do so. Again, this channel is meant to help anyone that needs any kind of assistance when it comes to their trading, getting a foundation that won't, of course, give way on them. So want to give you something that'll make sure that your trading can take off. And again, that the market do not snatch away the opportunity that you're wanting for yourself. All right. So I wish you all the best with your trading. Take care.